My name is Danny Decker, co-founder here at Spotlight Marketing and Branding. We are a full-service digital marketing firm. We help law firms get more clients and better clients. This webinar today is about client experience and, separate from marketing, but in my view, adjacent and very closely intertwined, which is really why I am so excited to have Vance here for this conversation. We always tell people your marketing has two jobs. One is to attract the right types of clients, and two is to keep everybody else away, right? And for a whole multitude of reasons. First and foremost, we don't want to burn you and your sales team out with the wrong types of leads. And ultimately, the only thing worse than a lead showing up and they're not a good fit and so they don't sign up is if a lead shows up and they're not a good fit and they do sign up, right? Because now you got a whole headache. Our goal at Spotlight, and in my opinion, marketing in general has two jobs, right? It's to attract the right people, but also to keep the wrong folks away. So we look at it this way: your marketing should attract potential clients that check a few boxes for you, right? First and foremost, they need to have the right legal needs. A lot of folks here have a focus on a specific vertical, right? Whether it's immigration or PI or estate planning or whatever it may be. Number one, a new potential client needs to have the right legal needs. Second, need to have the right expectations. And this is an area where marketing sometimes goes wrong and creates headaches, right? You don't want to, promise an instant fix. You don't want your marketing to make promises that your service can't deliver on because that creates all sorts of headaches, right? So number two is have the right expectations. Number three is they need to meet your geographic, your demographic criteria, right? Most law firms are, regional, local, sometimes state focused, but you can't help a client if they are outside of the area you're licensed to practice. And some of you, we have some clients who are divorce firms and work exclusively with men or with women, right? So needs to check the demographic boxes. Four is ideal clients have the financial means to pay for your services. That doesn't necessarily mean they're always excited to write a big check, but we want to generate sales opportunities, client opportunities that can find the financial means necessary to pay for your services. And ideally, they are not price shopping, right? A big part of what we do to help our law firms market is really create a relationship, build a brand that sets you apart from all of your competition so that in an ideal world, your clients aren't actually looking elsewhere. They are considering hiring you and only you, and that makes them less price sensitive. And why this is important and why I chose to start with this is because this is only the first step, right? Everybody here, the goal is to help you grow your law firm. Marketing plays an important role in that. Once marketing generates a lead, now your sales team takes the ball, and now they need to do their thing to convert them into a client. And then the client experience starts. And if these things aren't all in alignment, like if the sales and intake team, isn't in alignment with marketing, well, you're not going to sign clients up. Then if the client experience can't deliver on the expectations set by your marketing and the expectations set by your intake team, well, then we've done all this work to bring the right types of folks to your law firm, and they sign up, but they don't have the experience that they need to to be happy, to be referral sources, to be long-term clients, and all of that. So again, today's webinar is all about client experience, which ties into marketing and sales and really should create a flywheel of referrals and repeat engagements. And that is why I am so excited to have our guest today, Vance Morris. Vance is the president of the Deliver Service Now Institute. He's a speaker, he's an author, he's got a really great story. And so, Vance, I'm going to go ahead and start there and ask you to kind of share a little bit about your background for the folks that may not know who you are yet. But before we jump into that, guys, as always, these are meant to be conversational. This is meant to be practical. So if you have questions, as we are going through, drop them in the chat. Me and my team will keep an eye on them, and Vance will bring questions to your attention kind of as appropriate, and we'll make some time for Q&A at the end. So with that, Vance, thank you so much for being here. It's an honor to have you. Can you start by just tell folks here a little bit about you, and let's hear about your background.
Yeah, sure thing. I appreciate you having me on, Danny. We're going to I think we'll have a little bit of fun today, I hope. I try not to be boring. But yeah, I am living proof that you can work for the Disney company and then leave it and you won't curl up into a little ball and die anywhere. I spent a little over a decade with the Mouse down in Orlando on the opening team of a couple of their resorts and operations for some of their attractions. And it really set the stage for everything I was going to do. Luckily, it was really my first real job, and it was a great basis for everything that I'm going to talk about as we're going forward. And I just want to preface it with people always ask me, why do I want to copy Disney? And, I mean, I'm an attorney, I'm a financial advisor, I'm a dentist. Why do I want to copy Disney? And you don't, unless you own a roller coaster or, a cast of characters. What you want to do is look and how to adapt what Disney is doing or any really great service or experience provider, Apple, Harley Davidson, Chick-fil-A, just to name a few. So look at ways to adapt. I spent another 10 years in the hospitality world where I realized I make a lousy employee. I don't like to be told what to do. And if you just ask my two ex-wives, they will probably agree with that statement. So after getting fired the second and last time, I said, I need to start my own thing. So I did what every small boy dreams of doing when he's growing up, and I started a carpet cleaning business here in Maryland. But it was a little bit different. It was positioned as a premium service for affluent clients. I mean, we had a few single wide trailers with the three-legged dogs running around out front. We had a couple of those slip in. But for the most part, our pricing, our experience, and the value we were delivering was for an affluent market. So Danny talked a lot at the beginning there about knowing who it is that you're selling to, who can afford you, and who would make a great client. And I'm not saying it in a derogatory sense. It's just that people that pay for our services appreciate the level of experience that we deliver. And, right now my pricing is about 40% higher than any of my closest competitors. I'd love to say we clean carpet 40% better than them, but I don't think we do. However, the value and the experience we deliver is certainly worth the additional investment. As my days went on, we slowly added a Oriental rug washing facility to it. I also own a mold remediation company. And one of the big lessons I got from Disney that I've carried through is that Disney runs on processes and systems 100%. And if they didn't, the thing would just completely fall apart. And I think we're going to talk about that a little later in the webinar. So I did that with my home service businesses. What that did was allow me to hire a general manager. It was probably about 6 years ago. And I now spend 90 minutes a week on those businesses because all I had to tell them was manage the systems. Don't screw with anything, just manage the systems. And that's proven to work. So I spend about 90 minutes a week, cashing checks, kissing babies, meeting with the GM. And if he has ideas, certainly we talk them through. It's not saying that my systems are the end all be all, but until we talk about it, we don't make any changes. So that gives me the freedom to do what I love doing. And what I'm doing right now is talking to professional service folks about creating customer experiences that are going to be memorable and tellable because we want that word of mouth marketing. And the great thing about delivering memorable guest experiences or customer experiences is that you now have stickiness. You now have customer retention. You've set the stage because you might be a great attorney, but if the experience with you absolutely sucks, you've got no prayer of having them come back and use your services again. So you got to have that in-office experience or that customer journey experience really dialed in. So that's enough about me, Danny. Let's get some stuff rolling here for these guys.
No, I love it, Vance. And for those of you that are with us, I would love to just get a pulse on the room. How many of you, if you don't mind dropping this in the chat, client experience, is this something you have given little thought to? Is this something you've given tons and tons of thought to? Where are you on this spectrum? And no shame in saying, hey, this isn't something we've thought about a lot. I will tell you this was something we have eventually at my agency given a lot of thought to, but it was not the first thing we thought of, right? And I think for most people in Vance, I can imagine, I'll be curious if you've seen it any differently, but this is something that is kind of a new concept for a lot of business owners. So love to see that. Alice, a lot of thought. That's great. Really cool to hear this, guys. And again, the goal here is to help you walk away kind of wherever you are on this journey with some practical ways to make your client experience better for all the reasons Vance and I have talked about. So Vance, let's start there. Why is client experience such a big deal? Why is it worth the investment?
Yeah. So if you think about it, we are all in highly commoditized businesses. I mean, a dentist is a dentist is a dentist. There's only so many ways to clean teeth, right? Like the little squirty thing or the little buzzy thing, and that's kind of it. So what separates one dentist from another? It's the experience that dentist delivers. So, I mean, as attorneys, highly commoditized industry. Even though we don't want to admit it, sorry, guys and gals, we are. Carpet cleaners, yep, we're commoditized too. The only thing that separates me from everyone else is the experience that I deliver. And when you do that, a number of things happen. One, again, you have that tellability. People will start talking about you. And, when I'm working with my coaching members and clients, the message we're trying to get across is for your customers to say, oh my God, you'll never guess what happened at the attorney's office today. Now, I can guarantee you when you go home or you sit down at dinner and you just had your carpets cleaned, nobody goes home and says, oh my God, you'll never guess what happened when the carpet cleaners were here today. It's just not a conversation anybody has. But if it was an over the top experience that delivered value, now you're like excited. You got to go out and tell somebody. So that's really what the experience that it's above and beyond. We assume you know how to practice law. That's the entry into the marketplace. But to be able to separate yourself from all of the other commoditized attorneys, we got to have that in-office experience or the overall customer journey experience really dialed in.
Love it. So, all right, so let's roll up our sleeves and get into this. So Vance, when you're working with a law firm or, for the law firms that are here listening, like what's the first step? How do you begin?
Yeah, great question. And I think we had some handouts, but the first thing you've got to do is map out your customer journey. And you can do it in any format you want. You can use mine, you can do something different, but you want to look at every point where a customer has a interaction or a client has an interaction with your business. So what is the first point of contact with your business? Is it answering the phone? Is it a postcard? Is it your website? What is that first point of contact? And then you write it in that box. And then what's the second point? What is and this is from the customer's point of view. So let's
And
say
Vance,
it's, yeah.
just so I'm tracking, you are suggesting this does not start after they sign up, right? This is
No,
this is you are mapping this experience from like literally their very first touch
very
point.
first touch.
And by the way, guys, Vance has kindly made these materials. This handout and a few others that we'll share a little bit later available for all of you. There's a link in the chat. You can download it. We also sent them out to you via email. So feel free to print these out. I imagine they're meant to be working documents.
Yep.
So Vance, this starts with very first touch point. First time somebody hits your website and
Yep.
and continues from there, yeah?
Yep, 100%. And then you map out all of the next touches, but from the customer point of view. So, let's say the first touch is a phone call. Okay, great. Then what does the customer do? Do they come into your office or do you set up another call? That actually is step 3 because you have to take into account that they are waiting. So between call first initial call and first initial meeting, there's going to be amount of time where they are waiting. So they're doing something, and we want to control what that something is so that we can increase either conversions from phone call to first appointment, and make sure that we get them to show up and show that we are serious about what we're doing. So in the box number two, it might be, well, customer has to wait a week before they get into the office. Great. Then they come into the office. Fine. What does that experience look like? And then we just continue all the way through. Some of, I've worked with companies. I mean, some of them have 72 touches. Some of them have 16 touches. It just really depends on what you're doing.
Yeah.
But you want, yeah, go ahead,
And
Danny.
and if I can jump in, from like the sort of the marketing and sales piece of this, right? Obviously as an agency, this is where we're involved, and we will do things for our clients like mystery shops and things like that. And it is wild what you learn about your business. Maybe assumptions you've had about the way the phone is being answered, or even the way your website functions. And it is really important. Again, just speaking from the marketing and sales piece of this, that you are doing this mystery shopping. And Vance, that leads me to kind of one of the first questions I have for you. And we actually we got a few questions in advance of this from folks that had registered. And guys, as you're listening to this, if you have questions, do feel free to drop them in the chat, and we'll get to them. But the first question was, Vance, what's your opinion on answering services and AI receptionists? Do you have an opinion on that?
I do. Rather strong one. Personally, I don't think AI is at a point where it can do what we need it to do and mimic a human. Um, I right now, a lot of my competitors have gone to phone trees, AI, just voicemail. And there's no way to get in touch with a human. I mean, it's like, when you're on the phone with a credit card company and you want to actually talk to somebody, and you just start jamming that zero 100 times, as hard as you can, you still can't get to a representative. That is a frustration point. That is a sales or service prevention department hard at work there. So if you are going to use AI, your first option and the easiest option must be connect me to a real live person. Now, I've invested in having a real live person answer the phone to begin with. So it's actually now a competitive advantage for my home service businesses, because nobody else is doing it. Everybody's got some kind of electronic gizmo answering the phone. We got a real person who can show empathy, who can ask questions, who can answer questions. I just don't think I'm not saying it won't get there. It's just that it ain't there yet.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point in the legal space, especially, right? When you consider that, potential clients of your law firm are they're going through something stressful in their life, almost certainly, right? Whether that's divorce, whether they were just, injured in a car accident, maybe their business just got hit with a lawsuit, like whatever the case may be, like it's important to show some empathy and create some connection. And to Vance's point, I'm a big believer in AI, but I've not yet seen the technology there either, that can connect with humans in that way. So, again, from having mystery shop law firms, one early, loss is if you do have that, whether it's AI or answering service or whatever, that just is impersonal and difficult to deal with. I mean, honestly, people hang up, right? People hang up. So, I'm glad we touched on that, because that is a hot button topic these days. And Vance, it sounds like you're kind of advocating in general for having a live receptionist when possible, and probably a script for that receptionist. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And it again, it's the competitive advantage right now. And until AI catches up, yeah, you need it. It needs to be there, 100%.
So for folks who are listening, Drop in the chat if you don't mind. What is the current answering solution in your firm? Do you have a live team member? Are you using an AI platform, an answering service? Do you have something that you like? I'm always looking to do some R&D, and so if some of you have come across an AI solution that's really great, I would love to hear about it. Sounds like, Brett, John, you have live receptionist, Michelle, answering service. Very cool. So Vance, let's keep going.
Yep.
So, somebody answers the phone, they end up signing up for, pay a retainer, hire the law firm, and then they show up for their first, maybe it's an initial consultation, maybe it's a paid consultation. That's a big point in this consumer journey, correct?
Right. Oh yeah, 100%. And it even actually starts out in your parking lot, if you have one. I'm working with a financial advisor in San Jose. She's a tenant in a 50 tenant office building, and her clients have a hard time finding her. And she actually has drop off from initial phone call to first appointment because people can't find her. The signage is horrible in the building. They won't let her do anything. So one of the ways around that, we created a video that we send out ahead of time of somebody driving into their parking garage, parking in front of the sign for their company, walking to the elevator, pushing the up button, pushing the right floor. It's only 35, 40 seconds long, but we send that out ahead of time so that they don't get lost. We're eliminating all of those roadblocks and speed bumps that would prevent somebody from doing business with us. And once they're in, this is really where, the magic starts to happen is how are they greeted in the office? What's the first impression that they get? Is it, Marge sitting behind a desk and, hey, I'll be with you in a second, you kind of get the one finger kind of thing. Or is somebody actually expecting you, which they should because they have an appointment, and they stand up, they walk around the front of the desk, and they say, "Hey, Mr. Smith, we're glad you're here for your appointment. Can I get you something to drink?" Now, at that point, most companies will go get a bottle of water out of the fridge or a little 4-ounce styrofoam cup of Maxwell House, and call it a day. If you really want to take it over the top, present them with a menu. Now, I've done this with professional services and I've done this with an oil change company. So it can be done anywhere. So we'll ask, can we get you something to drink while you're waiting for your attorney? And when they say yes, we actually present them with a menu, like one from like a nice steakhouse, got a big cardboard backing to it. And on one side is a listing of 6 still and sparkling waters. And the other side is 9 different coffee drinks that everybody in the firm is trained on how to make. Now, if you walked into any office and they presented you with a menu of drinks that they could have before you even do anything, that's setting an impression. That's also setting the stage that, hey, this isn't your normal attorney's office. It's going to be something special, and it's building value, and it's allowing that price elasticity in your fee just by starting off that way.
Well, I love that. And Vance, my mind immediately goes to, systems and processes and how do we deliver something like that? And I think one of the reasons I love it is because, man, that is extremely low cost, right? You maybe need to invest in an espresso machine, but that can't be more than $200, and it can't be all that hard. I mean, in all honesty, we've got one in our office and it's a touch screen, right? Like I don't actually have to, I don't know the difference between a cappuccino and a latte, but I just have to push the button, right? So like this is a pretty simple like thing to implement, but man, like what a wow moment.
Yeah. It's that, oh my God, you'll never guess what happened at the attorney's office today. My attorney made me a double frappuccino with extra potato juice, whatever it is.
I love the menu idea too. And again, folks, as you're listening to this, I hope you're looking for takeaway opportunities. I mean, this would be something for those of you that do have in-office consultations with which I imagine the majority of you do. I mean, what a great opportunity for kind of a quick win. So that's great, Vance. And let's keep talking about sort of that initial consultation. I've heard you in the
Sure.
past talk about things like the way your waiting room is decorated, even things like the sounds, the smells, right? Like
Hmm.
what else should a law firm be thinking about with regards to like their waiting area?
Yeah. So you want to set up what I would call a friendly sales environment. And since you have an office, you are already ahead of the game. So for my guys, we are in what I call a hostile sales environment. We are nose to nose, toes to toes with somebody in their kitchen or their living room, and it's their turf. So we have to kind of do all we can to flip the table and make it at least halfway our area. You guys have it set, I don't want to say easy, but easier in that you set up a room that is designed for this initial consultation, that is designed for closing. Do you have, testimonials up on the walls, smiley, happy, clients, pictures of your family, pictures of your dog, things that will spark conversations? I strongly recommend that if you've got stuff in your personality, hobbies that you like, that kind of stuff should be brought out in your office so that it now becomes a natural point of connection. Oh yeah, I love fly fishing. Where's that picture taken? And now you've started this emotional connection, with your client. So the room really needs to be designed to further the sale. If you just have beige walls and you got a couple of, stock photos that you bought from Walmart, that ain't cutting it. And then, you did bring up the sense of smell. Sense of smell is the number one sense for humans when it comes to memories. So, anytime I walk somewhere and I smell kielbasa cooking, I immediately think of my grandmother's house because she made it and cooked it. I've got a lot of folks that will actually now, by the way, let me start with this. If you have a Glade plugin or a Potpourri plugin or any of that nasty stuff, get rid of it. Because one, it stinks and everybody knows that it stinks. And two, it's actually bad for your health. That stuff will kill you. It's like one molecule off from antifreeze. So if you want to make your office smell good, get yourself a little pot, put some potpourri or cinnamon stick in it, and then let it simmer on the stove. Or go and buy yourself a little toaster oven and have somebody bake one cookie, every hour. Now your office actually smells welcoming. It smells like, doesn't smell like an office, so to speak. So there's a lot of sensory things that you can do to get people to feel relaxed, because I'm sure they're uptight and nervous when, especially on a first meeting, especially if it's something that's really important to them, a divorce, or business buyout or whatever. Anything you can do to reduce their anxiety is just going to help you in the sales process as you go through.
Yeah, no, that makes so much sense. That's great. And so okay, so you have the sales conversation, the initial consultation, somebody signs up, and right now we've transitioned from the sort of pre-engagement glide path into now they're an active client. So
Yep.
what are you thinking about, Vance, as from a client experience, looking at our service flow map here? What are you
Right.
thinking about kind of as we move into this stage of the client relationship?
Certainly. So we talked earlier that there are going to be times when all they do is wait. And that is a perfect opportunity for you to jump in and deliver and create value, or even just entertain them a little bit and let them know that you're still around. So if you go to Disney, you wait in lines. I mean, you wait in lines to get on the ride, you wait in lines for food, you wait in lines for transportation. Now, Disney can't compress time, but what they do is they entertain you while you're in line so that waiting doesn't feel so bad. So, and they call it line entertainment. So, how can you adapt that into your practice where you know that your client is going to end up waiting 2 or 3 weeks while you do some discovery or you get witness statement or whatever has to be done. Um, what's the client doing while you're doing all that stuff? Remember, because this customer flow chart is from the customer's point of view, not yours. So they're out there for 3 weeks just kind of hanging out. Great. What can we be doing? What can we be sending them? Can we put them on our newsletter list and start having that go out? Can we send small gifts? Can we send things that will build value? If you've written a book, that's a great time to deliver that and say, hey, we're going to be in this period of a couple of weeks where I'm going to be doing a lot of stuff in the background. You're not going to see any activity, but here's the book that I wrote on auto accidents, and it'll give you a great idea of what I'm doing right now, so you don't feel out of the loop. So it's a lot of touch points. Food is good. Food is always good. And it doesn't have to be high value stuff. I mean, again, it could just be send them a funny video, or say, hey, we're at this stage, especially with CRMs now, and you can automate all this stuff, is, after they sign up, now you tag them in your CRM and they get a video series delivered to them and dripped over a number of days or
Yeah.
weeks. So
Vance, I think this is such a great point. And in the legal space, there is so much kind of necessary waiting, right? And whether it's waiting for a government agency to process something, or waiting for opposing counsel to respond to something, right? There are just many circumstances where you, as the law firm, you don't really have anything to do or report on this specific case, because you are just kind of waiting. But one of the number one causes of client dissatisfaction with law firms, and even one of the leading complaints that lead to bar grievances, is actually, it's just a lack of communication. And so that's where, to your point, I love the touch points. And something that I always encourage folks to do is, even if you don't have an update, right? Even if there is nothing to report, because there's not going to be anything to report for another 3 weeks while we just wait on this agency. Um, Send them that update and let them know, like, hey, here's where things stand. We're waiting on this person to respond, and we're probably gonna, we expect to hear back in 2 to 3 weeks. In the meantime, rest easy, relax, everything's under control, right? That just sort of proactive communication goes a long way. And then, especially if you take it to the next level, Vance, where you got my wheels turning, where, like, can you send them something fun in the mail? What can you do to really, add some personality and personal touch?
yeah, and you can do. I mean, I have a client that has one of her clients makes custom Afghans. Those little knit blankets. And anytime she gets a new client that seems to be, have some anxiety, they give them this. They call it a worry blanket, and it just they give it. They send it through the mail and say, "Hey, look, we don't want you to worry. Relax," as you said. And here's a little something to keep your toes warm while we're working on your case.
Yeah, and I think of things like, in the PI world, like, people they're injured, right? Lots of times they're at home not able to work, even something relatively simple like a DoorDash gift card, right? And where
Mhm.
it's like, it may be difficult for you to cook dinner right now because you're injured, so, have dinner on us type thing. Like, I feel like those touches really go a long way. So, guys, as we're listening, if you've got questions, please do drop them in the chat. I want this to be, practical for everybody. And there we go. John's got a great question here. What if we created something similar to a Domino's online order that shows what stage the matter is at, right? So just some sort of virtual, digital, page that somebody can log on and get an update on their case status. Any
Yeah, that's
thoughts on
brilliant.
that, Vance?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's brilliant. And again, since we all, since CRMs have gotten so robust lately, you can do that, and it doesn't have to be the attorney. It could be, admin person, but it's just a matter of building out that funnel, or building out that automation, and then applying a tag, and then they can see, as things happen with their case, it pops up on a dashboard, and people love to see stuff popping up on dashboards as activity. And people like activity. It doesn't have to actually be you've resolved something or you're physically working on the case, people just like to see activity. And if they see activity, they're less likely, as you said, to complain about lack of communication. They see that something is going on. So yeah, I
Yeah.
love the idea of the Domino's online thing, and that's a great example of taking something from a completely different industry and adapting it into what we're doing here.
Love it. So, okay, so Vance, kind of returning to this exercise. So,
Yeah,
I understand that, you sit down with a law firm and you kind of run through this customer service flow map. And I'm sure kind of what happens along the way is, you identify some opportunities for improvement, things that could be
yep,
better, probably a lot of things that could be better. So where do you go from here? Do you have a
yeah.
process of triaging, or like where do you go from here?
Yeah, so you'll want to, you need to know your numbers. So, conversions from first meeting to second meeting, conversions from phone call to, so you need to know how you can measure things. And then you look at that customer journey and you find the points that you prioritize it and you find the points that are going to have the best bang for their buck. Or if
So,
you focused on
So let
this
me make
point,
sure, let me
yep,
just make sure for people that are following along. And again, we emailed these documents to you guys. So you should have access. So let's say like the very first step is visits my website. So that would be number one. This customer visits the website. And then you come
yep,
over to the second page, and block number one
yep,
is visits the website. And
yep.
and then it looks like you sort of
So
uh
you would then take what is it you're doing? Let's use answer the phone because I don't. A lot of people's websites are very different and interactive. So let's say your first point of contact is the customer or the client calls you. So that's touch one. So yep, that's block one. And in your current service, what are you doing right now when you answer the phone? How is the phone answered? And you write that in there. Most are going to be something along the lines of, thank you for calling Biff, Henry, and Sampson attorneys. Something really benign and boring. Something that we've all heard everywhere. Doesn't matter what business you call. You call a plumber, call a financial advisor. They all answer the phone. Thank you for calling. And it's not memorable and it doesn't separate you from your competitors. So you want to brainstorm, how can we answer the phone that is going to create an experience out of answering the telephone. I'll give you a quick example. I worked with some insurance agents, and this was a Allstate convention, and there was like 9 Allstate guys in this one city, plus all of the other insurance agents out there. And my client was like, I gotta separate myself from all of them. And I'm sitting in his office, and this guy is like a rock and roll fanatic. He's got like Led Zeppelin posters on the wall, autographed guitars, gold records, the whole bit. And so we're brainstorming with his team. So don't do this in a silo. Make sure if you have a team, get them involved in this because, well, they're the ones going to be doing it. His receptionist actually came up with the way that they answer the phone now. So before it was, thanks for calling Dave's Allstate. How can I help you? Boring, doesn't do anything. Now, and she came up with it, remember, so this is an employee's idea. This is important. Employee's idea. Now they answer it. Thank you for calling Dave's Allstate, the agency that rocks. Now, yeah, first 17 times you say it, it's a little corny, but it becomes part of the practice. And, one, it certainly separates them from everybody else. There is no other rock and roll insurance guy in Tallahassee. He's the only one, and nobody can take it from him. And remember, Danny said it earlier. What is your marketing designed to do? Attract the people you want and repel the people you don't want. So just by answering the phone this way, you're sifting, sorting, and screening out people who would not make a good client for you. And so you would take that and you would enter it in the excellent service column. And then you would take a big pen and you put a red X through the old way you answered the phone and say, we are never doing that again. We're only answering the phone this way. And then that becomes your current service. And then maybe 12 months, 18 months down the road, you've gone through all your high priority items. Maybe you revisit answering the phone and you ask yourself, how do we do that better? Maybe we answer the phone in 3 rings, and now the way we should answer the phone is in 2 rings. So it's constant process improvement, constantly looking for ways to make it better.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. So a question that came in here, and Vance, I think this is a really good question because I know a lot of law firms are moving in this direction, is just, do you have any tips for like a virtual consultation, right? For folks that do, do these types of things over Zoom or anything like
Yeah.
that. Any tips to sort of optimize that experience?
Yeah, 100%. Get them something in the mail. Essentially, you want Danny in a box or Vance in a box. And you want this box to arrive prior to the consultation. And it should do all of the heavy lifting for you as far as presenting you and your expertise. So, copies of your book, testimonial book, maybe articles that journals have written stuff about you, a food item, maybe a toy or something. And the box should be layered so that there's discovery. I mean, people love opening boxes. And there isn't a box out there that I don't think has ever been not opened in somebody's home. So you want to, again, remember we talked about setting up that sales environment. Well, by sending this box, you are now in their home and you are in front of them with, maybe your coffee mug. And if you're going to send a coffee mug, please send coffee. And you can do that. I mean, I've got a client that makes individual pour overs for coffee. And I say, hey, when we're going to have a virtual coffee, here's a cup of coffee. We'll have it while we're together. So you want to get some stuff in front of them so that you can create an experience while you're on the telephone or on the Zoom call or whatever you're on.
And so to be clear, you're suggesting that happens prior to even that initial consultation. So this is before
Oh
they've
yeah.
even signed up.
Oh yeah. And like I said, would you rather send a $20 box out or $25 box out, or waste your time with, a client on the phone that is not qualified or something like that? By sending this box, you're eliminating a 20, 30, 40-minute conversation that you could be billing somewhere else. So let that box do the heavy lifting for you. So once you do get on the call, then it's like, oh crap, these people already know you. And you can skip all of the here's my background and here's how I can help you and here's what I can get the award and all that crap. Yeah, no, definitely getting something in front of them is mission critical.
Well, and I'm certain that's going to increase show rate as well, right?
Yeah,
So, one of the things we always work hard on as an agency is when we're creating, lead opportunities, one of the things we pay a ton of attention to is what percentage of them show up for their consultation. And so, at minimum, this is absolutely something worth testing. Curious for those listening, do any of you send any sort of, preconditioning or package in the mail, to your clients either before the sales call or afterwards? Alice says, and this one just came directly to me, we have many people who schedule consults for the same day or next day virtual consults. That's a thorny one. So how do you think about that, Vance? People who schedule for
sure.
the same day or the next day?
Yeah, so I would imagine that most attorneys, especially probably in personal injury or divorce, you're local to that person, that prospect. And I work with real estate agents, and they do this all the time. They're like, yeah, I want to come over and I need you to do my listing, tonight. Well, before the listing agent goes out, they'll have somebody from the office drive the box over. I mean, real estate, they work within a 10-mile radius usually of their office, 15 miles. So it's not a big deal to get, and you're showing that you really care about their business by driving that box over there. Now, of course, you build all of this in to your fees. So this isn't a cost, this is an investment. And so, yeah, or you use FedEx, what's $9 in FedEx? It's compared to a, $10,000 fee or $5,000 fee. Send a blessed FedEx or reimburse your employee for some mileage for driving the box over.
Yeah, and Alice, I'll also add too, this is one of those areas where, as your leads are coming in, hopefully you've got, some level of qualification questions, right? So you can, I don't know, Alice, what area of law you practice, but there's probably just a couple of questions you can ask to, determine with a pretty high degree of accuracy whether this is a qualified lead or not. And, based on if they look good, then have the package sent, whether that's FedEx or a driver or whatever. But I would take that step of just make sure you do have some qualifying questions. But I think that's fantastic advice, Vance. I love it. Keep the questions, guys, coming, guys. We've got a couple more minutes here. And Vance, I want to ask you this question because I know you do work with plenty of professional service firms.
Mhm.
What are some other sort of low-hanging fruit opportunities for the law firm owners that are listening to this that are here on this webinar? Like, what are some other low-hanging fruit where they can maybe walk away and make a meaningful difference in their firm?
Yeah, great question. And one area that I don't speak a lot about, it's just not my area of expertise, but it is the employee experience. So if you have employees, pretty much the bottom line is if they are not having a good experience, there's no way they're going to be delivering a good experience for you. So, and I'm not saying this, we got to coddle them and have Pizza Friday every week and all that, but if you want, your employees to be engaged with the business, and actually, if you go to the next form, we can even talk about this real quickly. If you want engaged employees, you got to tell them what to do and how to do it. But the most important part there is, why do we do it this way? Why do we answer the phone the way that we answer the phone? Because when you create these SOPs, a lot of people haven't been with you since day one, so they probably never heard why we answer the phone that way. And it also becomes your training vehicle. So when Sally is sitting with Marge and learning how to answer the phones, well, she'll have her book open and, okay, what to do, answer the phone. Great. How to do it. Hey, thanks for calling the agency that rocks. Why do we answer the phone that way? Separates us from everybody else, sort sift screens out bad. Once they understand, now they're engaged. And engaged employees are extremely valuable. They will tell you things, show you things, and help you fix things that you didn't even know were broken. So kind of low-hanging fruit, yeah, grab on to trying to keep your employees engaged. Certainly the environment, we talked a little bit about that sales environment. And then the last part, maybe either if it's a long case or if the case gets settled, but there's opportunity for them to do business with you in some other capacity. You need to have a retention strategy. What are you doing to keep your customers, keep your clients in your world? So I strongly recommend having a monthly print newsletter. No, not digital, print, because we all know our inboxes and they are, mine's a disaster. I mean, I've got, 17 emails I got in the last 20 minutes being on this call.
Well, you don't
And
have to choose one or the other, right, Vance?
yeah,
We are also big believers in email newsletters, but I'm a big fan of print as well. So
yeah.
doing both.
Oh God, yeah, yeah, 100%. And what I was going to say is we do both print and digital, but you don't have to do things twice. So you can actually take the content from the print newsletter and make it into an email, and now you're not working twice as hard. But because everybody consumes stuff differently, and at least in the physical mailbox, there's not a lot of competition for your attention. But yeah, no, I think that yeah, I'm not saying not do email, certainly not. But having both, 100%.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so another question that came in. We have the issue of clients getting constant contact from our intake and sales folks prior to the sale, and then they have the impression that communication drops off once the legal team takes over. This is a result of large caseloads, but also clients don't really want to pay for constant contact at an hourly rate. Any ideas on how to increase the perception of constant contact without actual billable hours to the client?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it goes back to, having a good, solid CRM, one that, like I said, for those of you not familiar, customer management system, and applying some kind of tag that will start a sequence. So we talked about like, sending, 8 videos. And so that costs you nothing. There's nothing to bill for that. The CRM is taking care of everything, and it'll tell them when to send what video. You can program it to send them a postcard, a birthday card. I mean, anything you want for information to go out. It's set it and forget it. And once you build it once, it's done. And you can get those things hooked up to print houses and mailing houses. And it can automatically, so I've got one, automatically sends an email to my print house, and my print house automatically sends out a package. I don't even know that the darn thing went out. So
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And Alice, one other thought I have on that question is, well, I guess a few thoughts. One is I would want to structure the engagement so that they don't feel that they are being billed for those updates. I mean, if that's as simple as just bumping your flat fee up a little bit, or bumping your hourly rate just up a little bit to make it, to just bundle those costs together, I'd think about that. And then the second is, who is the lowest cost member of your team that can send these updates? Like, is there a system using your CRM where, maybe the attorney doesn't have to be the one that sends this update, but a paralegal or an assistant can, right? Just to make it efficient, because I certainly do understand when you have a large caseload, you need these efficiencies. So John asks, do you have any CRM recommendations? That's a loaded conversation. We could do a whole
yeah,
webinar on that. But Vance, I am curious, do you have any CRM recommendations that you like?
yeah. I mean, I'm not familiar with any for attorneys, and I know there are some that are out there. Um, but you do want to have one where you can integrate your email, your direct mail, a place to record conversations and activities. Maybe even one that'll do the invoicing for you. But I know that there's other complicated attorney invoicing systems. And you want one that is fairly intuitive. And I mean, I happen to use a version of Go High Level, which, I mean, I am not a tech guy and I can work with it. That is one, and it's relatively inexpensive. HubSpot, a little bit more complex, but they do have a free version, but it's not very robust. There are people out there, and I don't know, Danny, if this is a service you offer, but they'll talk with you and get your parameters and then recommend a CRM based on what you want it to do. They're kind of CRM agnostic.
That's interesting. No, that isn't actually something we do. And maybe Vance, after this, I'd love to connect and get that resource, or feel free to
Yeah.
share it if you know who that person is, because that's actually a really interesting resource.
Yeah. It'll take me a second to dig her name up, but
We'll send it out afterwards.
yeah.
I'll check in with you on that. That sounds great. Alice says our firm uses HubSpot for CRM. So you have a separate CRM and case management. And Alice, I know that pain, right? Because HubSpot is a great marketing CRM, but it doesn't integrate perfectly with most practice management. Sabrina Lawmatics, Avery Lawmatics. Listen, I don't have a super strong recommendation. I know plenty of folks that use Clio Grow and Clio Manage together and feel good about that. Lawmatics is obviously, well known for a reason, but I guess I've yet to meet a single lawyer or marketing person, for that matter, who loves everything about their CRM. I've yet to discover the perfect CRM. So if any of you have it, please share and we'll let everybody know. We are fans of Go High Level. It does give a lot of functionality, but it's a great marketing and sales CRM, but it's not, it obviously isn't a practice management solution for law firms yet. So awesome. Camp Legal. Quinette, thanks for sharing that. So we're getting close to the top of the hour here, Vance, and this was tremendously helpful. Guys, for those of you that are still here, have been with us this whole time, I would love to hear some takeaways. What are your top takeaways? What have you learned? What are you going to take back to your law firm and implement, right? Because I know for everybody here, there's at least one takeaway. Mine is we need to bake cookies in our office more frequently, Vance. And listen, in all honesty, we don't have clients face to face very often, but I think I just want that chocolate chip cookie smell in the office. So,
Yep.
and Vance, while we're sort of wrapping up here, for folks that do want to know more about you, maybe interested in working with you, what does that process look like, and where can they go to connect with you?
Sure. Best place to connect, and actually for those that are not very creative or have trouble thinking of ways to wow their customers, actually have a download called 52 Ways to Wow Your Customer Without Breaking the Bank. And you can find that at wow52ways.com. I'm on LinkedIn. Certainly, you can find me there. We do a number of different programs throughout the year. One of the fun ones we get to do is we actually take business owners down to Disney for 3 and 4 day boot camps. So if you want to get fully immersed in all things Disney, it's half classroom, half in the theme parks, and at the end of it, you've got your blueprint for Disneyfying your business.
Love it. That sounds great. I just dropped the link to the book in the chat. Celeste, I love that takeaway. Thinking of this as a concierge here to maximize your experience while you're with us. And again, I do want to kind of bring this full circle. Like obviously, client experience is great just in and of itself, right? We all love having happy clients. We wanna leave the world in a better place than we found it, right? And creating a great experience is part of doing that. But I do want to connect this to, the growth of your law firm, right? Because we're doing all this work to find the right types of clients to generate leads. You're converting them into clients, and now you have this opportunity to create a memorable experience that makes them just infinitely more likely to then go tell other people about your firm. And the thing is, when you bring in the right types of clients, whatever that looks like for your law firm, more often than not, they are friends with or part of community with other people like them, whether that's going to the same church, working in the same profession, whatever. And so you deliver a great experience for one person, and they're just that much more likely to go tell their friends, their colleagues, their family about you. And listen, that's how you create just exponential growth without just upping your Google ad spend, every single month. So on that note, Vance, do you have any sort of final thoughts before we thank you for your time?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. The one thought I always like to leave people with is you got to do something. I mean, you heard a lot of ideas today. We dropped a whole bunch of good gold nuggets for you. Take one idea and implement it. Because otherwise, it's been a nice 59 minutes getting to know you. Hi, how are you? But if you don't take something and actually start doing something with it, then you're not going to see the change that you're looking for.
100%. And so download these materials, guys. Visit Vance's website. Listen, whether it's auditing the way your phone is answered, right? Just by mystery shopping, or just looking at your reception area with fresh eyes, please do take some action on this. Vance, thank you so much for being here. Appreciated your time and your expertise. And folks, thanks for sticking around with us. Hope this was valuable, and we will hope to see you back for another webinar soon. You probably know we do a couple of these every single month, so stay tuned for the next one. And Vance, with that, we will wrap it up at 1 o'clock on the dot. One more time, what's your URL? What is the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Sure. So for the download, it's wow52ways.com. And if you want my general website, it's vancemorris.com.
Wonderful. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Have a great day. And Vance, we will talk soon.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Danny.
Bye.